All right, everybody, welcome to the Middle Ground Mike. I hope this gets everybody doing well this evening. We got a really, really great guest here, Derek. Man, it's been definitely good to get to know you.
Thank you. It's
You
nice
know, it's
chatting
always,
with you as well.
yeah, it's always great to have good people on, and good humans, if you want to call it that. Like your description has said, the lessons and perspectives, husband, father, grandfather, and business owner. And like we were talking, just kind of give everybody a little bit of a background on yourself.
Well, I've recently written a book, released it. It's on Amazon. But I've been a massage therapist for a little over 14 years, and I'm a father and grandfather. And I've recently gone through a couple programs that changed me and helped me see that my voice could be beneficial for other people to hear. And I got my book out so I could share my information that beyond just one-on-one conversations with my clients. It's been amazing to be part of this and get to do podcasts like this with wonderful people like you.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate it. Before we get super deep, how do you like Podmatch? I love Podmatch.
Yeah, Podmatch has been really cool. I think that's been the driving force in me being able to do this because it would be hard for people to find the information that I have to give without it.
Yeah,
I'm really,
the CEO of Podmatch, Alex, he's pretty active on Facebook. He's definitely a very happy-go-lucky person.
yeah, and he's in Florida too.
Yeah, oh yeah, I did see that on his thing, man. I'm gonna be on they got that seminar thing, I believe, on the 17th. So I'm definitely gonna check that out. So just maybe give everybody a little bit of a background on your on your book, just like a synopsis that would get people to like pull them in.
So the book, I wrote it from the standpoint we all kind of grow up and then we get to a certain age and we like think, I wish I would have known what I know now when I was a child or when I was a kid or when I was a teenager, and how much easier my life would be if I had that insight, that perspective. And so I wrote the book like I was writing to my younger self to give that advice that I wish I would have known growing up. And I wrote it as a neutral place because I believe everybody should go into it with their own thoughts and values and then evaluate those values as to what they really mean to them and get true values for themselves beyond what they just grew up hearing or what they grew up believing. A lot of times, if we question our own way of thinking, we can find out that, well, we might just be doing something to get along, or we might just be doing something because it's what we always did. And I don't know, it's just that's the way it is, or that's just how it's supposed to be, or that's how they told me it was. So the goal of my book is to challenge people to think and to explore things beyond even their normal
Yeah,
circles.
yeah. I mean, it getting you to think is to me is always definitely it's definitely important getting someone to think. Especially like when you go from talking to essentially if like you're saying is talking to your younger self from your older self. It's like, man, you're like, I really have some choice words for my younger self right about now. You know,
Yeah, those things I really shouldn't have done back then, or all
I
those
just got
all those years of slaving away. Now my back's killing me. It didn't seem like it was that bad of a deal back then because I didn't have the back that I have now.
yeah. When my dad looked at me and said that you're going to pay for that in 20 years, I'm like, whatever. You're overblowing it. Now I'm going, oh man, he was right.
Yeah, yep. You're gonna feel that later. No, I'm fine. I can jump 5 foot off the ground onto the concrete. No, it's fine.
I tried to He-Man it a couple of years ago, and did drywall, but I had two of those carriers, and I tried to carry up 4 sheets of drywall by myself up a flight of stairs. Yeah, let me tell you, I didn't really work on my upstairs for about, I don't know, month or so after that because I had a partial torn meniscus in my left knee.
Yep.
I was like, man, that wouldn't have happened like in my early 20s. Like,
Right.
I'm like, this isn't supposed to happen, man. I'm like, I should be able to just zip that right up there like it was nothing. And
Yep.
Oof, so like so from like your book, right? So you talk about talking to your younger self. I like that part, and because we all have self reflection, right? And how do you think different? So for even like younger people or people in like a similar thing, like looking back on like, hey, how do I talk to my younger self, or hey, how do I talk to myself? Like, what's just some like basic insight you would give them?
So one of the things that I offer is an exercise you can do, and it's when you feel yourself feel yourself feeling a certain way. Like if you're feeling an extreme aggravation, you to practice this exercise, you go back to what was the first time I felt this? What's the first time maybe I felt angry? You go back to whatever that is. It might only be a couple days ago that you can remember, but as far back as you can. And then you explore why you were angry in that. And you continue to dive deeper. So it would go something like, I was feeling angry when I was 6. Well, why were you feeling angry? Because I wasn't being seen and everybody was paying attention to all my siblings. Well, why were they paying attention to your siblings? Well, they needed more attention than I did. And, well, why do they need more attention than you? And you just keep building on the why until you get to the core aspect of, well, they needed more attention than me, or my parents liked them more than me, or I felt like I was losing out on attention because they got all the attention. And I worked through a similar scenario, but I always encourage people to do the why 5 to 10 times because each time you reconfirm your deeper why, you're getting closer to the actual sensation, getting closer to the actual feeling of what actually brought all of this up at this point where you're experiencing it for a second, third, millionth time. It could be, you know, all of those things, but a lot of times we never get to reevaluate or look at ourselves and where we establish those patterns to go, well, this doesn't make sense for me now, but I can feel where I'm aggravated and I see where I was aggravated then and there was a valid reason for it. And a lot of times that's what we need. We need that confirmation that it was okay to feel that. It's okay to feel it now. But we need to recognize that that younger version of ourselves needed that attention at the time and wasn't getting it. And that just translated farther into our adulthood.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that definitely makes me think of something that I probably heard a lot growing up. Suck it in,
Yeah, suck
sleep
it
on
up.
it, you'll be all
Yeah.
right. So now even to this day, I don't know if it's like a coping mechanism, whatever you call it. If I'm angry, anxious, just any of those things, right? Where I'm just like, ugh. I'll tell my wife, I'll be like, I'll be back in just a little bit. She'll be like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, I'm gonna go lay down for a half hour to an hour, and then I'll wake up and I'm like, all right, it's buried nice and deep. Let's go.
Right.
And my wife's like, that can't be healthy. I'm like, well, it's just the way it was.
Right. And those are
And
just
she trained me how to open up to her,
that's
because that
amazing.
was yeah, yeah, and it was not something that was very easy because I would usually just tell her like, just no, 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 leave me alone, let me do my thing. Now I just tell her, let me sleep on it, so that way when I talk about it, I'm not like level
Sure,
10
sure.
about it, like because right now the mere idea of the subject makes me just want to like go on a rant,
Right.
and being in management, you just after you do certain things so many times and then you're just like, a rant becomes kind of your way of getting
Repetitive.
it out,
Right.
and that's, I mean, I definitely get that. That was for men, anybody out there, learning to talk to that opposite person in your relationship is why you trust and you love that person. It's still not easy because you're worried how they're going to judge the part of your brain that you don't always share with.
Right. Well, I think that's kind of what the men's group that I was part of that allowed me to open up to other. I think that's a really beneficial aspect of it. As much as we want to tell our spouse everything, a lot of times having somebody else that's not directly involved or is not there in an emotionally charged space is able to say, hey, you're being a prick, or hey, this really isn't a big deal, or are you crazy? That's ridiculous. You should be aggravated. You know,
Oh yeah.
when particularly in the instance of somebody that's the same sex, usually when you're having a conversation with them, they're not looking at it from the same place as maybe the opposite sex or where you can feel judged. That's the benefit. One of the topics I go over in my book as well is a sounding board. And that is based on finding somebody who has some knowledge in an area that you want to grow in, or finding somebody who is open minded, and able to be somebody that you can constructively bounce ideas off of without them taking it as criticism or taking it as some demoralizing thing. If you can just have a normal conversation with that person about what you're feeling, what's going on in your life, or why you're frustrated with something, and they don't automatically shut you down with, well, it's no big deal, or suck it up, or just put, yeah, if
And
somebody's
too well.
gonna validate what you're feeling, that it's
Yeah.
a valid feeling, anybody that's in your shoes would feel exactly how you do.
Yeah.
And then in validating it, it takes some of the sting away from it. It takes some of the charge away from it. And when it's somebody with no skin in the game, when it's somebody who doesn't have all of your past history to go, well, when you were 15 and you jumped off of that bridge and I told you not to do it, well, that was pretty stupid. And this kind of sounds like something stupid like that. When you don't have that interaction, and as somebody there just genuinely there to grow together, to expand and get more beneficial aspects of conversations together, it makes a big difference. A lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people need that place to vent. And if the one thing that does happen, if we make our spouse that person, is a lot of times secretly there becomes some judgment that's happening, or there's some, well, I can't tell them that, or if they knew this about me. And when we go into a place constantly thinking about what we have to say or how we can say it so we don't offend them or affect them, then we're not really speaking our truth, and we're sugarcoating things because this person's not going to understand that. And if I tell it to them in a way that they understand, it might not actually be what I mean, but that's going to be the best that I can do.
Right. Yeah, no, I
That's
mean it reminds me of growing up, children should be seen and not heard.
yes,
I think that kind of, and that does have some place to a degree, right? But I feel like that was placed on like everything back then.
yes,
If they
yes,
didn't want to hear what you were trying to get them to buy, children are to be seen and not heard. It was just that was the
yes,
go-to if they wanted you to be quiet.
yes, yes. And then you grow up thinking that your voice doesn't matter, or you grow up with that mentality and then turn around and do it to your own kids. And then your kids grow up with some resentment because, well, kids are supposed to be seen and not heard. Well, I was just trying to tell you how I was feeling. I was just trying to tell you what was going on in my life, but you don't want to hear it. My points don't matter. And a lot of times that's a unfortunate legacy that some families leave, is they have beat down their kids, and then their kids are doing it to the next generation. And I think thankfully there's a lot more awareness nowadays than there was when we were growing up, to validate the fact that not only do what kids experience and feel matter, but what we feel and experience matters. And I think in this day and age, it's just now starting to get more acceptable for men to have emotions. Because
Oh yeah.
I know growing up, it was, you can be angry, or you can be happy, or you can be sex driven. Those are the three acceptable emotions for men.
Yep,
You
pretty
could be a
much.
pig, and that's acceptable. We'll agree with that. But don't cry, don't be emotional, and suck it all up and just do what you have to do because that's what a man does.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I would say that's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. That's a pretty fair statement. You know, that kind of I believe when I was talking with Martin a couple episodes ago, we were talking about, and you and I had mentioned Dax.
Mm-hmm.
We both kind of like his
Yeah, he's
work,
amazing.
and
Yeah.
I love Dax's work. I feel like he puts a lot of what a lot of men feel, and he makes it make sense.
Right.
And what really struck out to me in that song was the original iteration of it is when the dad came home at the beginning of the song, and he was bawling his eyes out. But then he collected himself and went into the house and was dad and husband of the year, and
Right.
I was like, man, I'm like, how often does that happen and we just don't realize it as a society?
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, for everybody that's out there, like I know women go through that too. I'm not saying, oh,
Right.
it's only a man thing, but
Right.
the
But it's more
expectations that's had
socially,
the different.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's more socially acceptable for women to express their emotions because
Yes.
they tend to naturally be a little more in touch with their emotions than men because we've been taught to bottle it up and beat it down. So it's definitely something I'm grateful that more people are becoming aware of. But I think Dax is doing an amazing job with what
Oh, I mean,
he
what a
does and
great,
what he puts
just what a
out.
great person, what a great human. I mean, just I've watched some interviews with him, and um, you know, I don't even know how to say it. I just, we need more people like that out there
Mhm.
talking about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
so, because he's got a platform, of millions of followers now.
right,
And it's
right.
like, all right, it's like, all right, man, now somebody's like putting it out there on a scale that, the masses are going to
Can
see,
get
and get more
yeah,
traction.
right. And that was ironically what helped me write the book. Like
Right.
you got to
Yeah.
get you got to get the information out where people can get it in more of a mass way, and that's why I'm doing the podcasts because people need to see me to know that I'm real, like the authenticity that I talk about on my Facebook group, Derek Henderson author page. I put little videos on there, just questions, trying to inspire deeper thought and just talking with people about or intending to talk with people to explore those topics in a little more depth because a lot of times people go into life thinking they're the only one that experienced this or the only one that feels this and it's not true. It might not be the person you're telling. It might not be the person you grew up with that experienced the same thing. And that might be what initially made you shut down because you tried to tell somebody and they weren't receptive. They weren't a good sounding board and they shut you down and they made what you were experiencing invalid. They made what you were experiencing little. They made it feel like it wasn't safe to communicate how you were feeling in that moment. And now, as a grandfather, I'm really aware of that with my grandkids because I want them to feel safe with me. I want them to be able to tell me what's going on. I want them to know that it's okay if they're boys and they cry. I don't want them to grow up thinking that it's not okay or that they have to be this big tough guy all the time. And I want them to grow up knowing it's okay. And so in order to do that, I have to be willing to model that myself. And I don't think we have enough positive masculine people in this world. I think the vilified men, I think the men that embody the negative stereotypes of being pigs and various other things are moved to the top of the platform and used as examples. And the vast majority of men are sitting on the sidelines going, but that's not me. That's not anybody I know. But that's the stigma that's presented for men. And because there's not enough men out there stepping up and saying that it's a reality, that it's okay to feel this way, it's okay to cry and release your emotions, and it having a benefit of somebody who's been there or somebody who's willing to talk with you through what you're feeling rather than demean you or make you feel little for feeling it. It's powerful stuff, and I think if more men had the ability and more men had the access to the information to know that it's okay to feel this way and that they're not alone for feeling lost or alone or that they're a failure as a father or that they could be doing so much better than they are or that they got to meet this next deadline or this next goal to be considered a man, you know, I think that's the exhausting part of being a man is just every time you think you're getting there,
Yeah,
it's
you're
another
far from it.
step.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're just like, what was you just kind of feel like, man, what was the point of that almost? Not like literally that, but
right.
your mind kind of goes in that direction per se. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, like why am I doing ABC, right? Or why is this or why, just start questioning everything.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just never good for anybody.
No. No, and what I always want to challenge is when you are questioning things, question it from a standpoint of, am I feeling upset or frustrated with this? Because it's not something I wanted to do anyway. I was doing this out of guilt. I was doing this out of obligation. And then I think there's many times where we're doing things that nobody asked us to do just because we felt like we had to do it. And if we have the conversation with the other person involved, half the time they aren't even wanting us to do it. Or they might automatically feel that resentment we feel to them, particularly in romantic relationships, when we're doing things out of what we feel is our obligation. And then they feel like the resentment because we didn't get the expectation met that we thought we were going to get by doing this or doing that. And so I think that can happen in a lot of relationships. So we have these thought processes that tell us if we did XYZ, that somebody else is going to reciprocate. And if I do this with this person, then I'm going to accomplish this. And then when that doesn't manifest because we either never told them what we were expecting or we were doing it from a place of obligation or feeling like we had to rather than doing it because we want to, then we're building resentment. And when we bring that energy into any kind of relationship, people feel it. Even if we tell them we love them, even if we tell them all of the things that they want to hear, if deep down we're still holding on to anger, frustration, and resentment for things that we were expecting them to do for us or expecting to be acknowledged that we're doing, and we never even put it out there for anybody to know that that was our expectation.
Right. No, that's man, the expectation part is, I think, probably the hardest thing to grapple with, especially because just as like an in general thing, right? Even people that are more accepting, da da da, when things get tough or the tough get going, however you want to word it, those traditional roles like just seem to kind of like they just appear.
Right.
And sometimes instinctively, right? Sometimes
Yes.
it's just like boom, it's an instinct and you just go there.
Right.
Like kind of like what you were saying. And I think like to read that a little bit is like the rewiring how you process the information.
Yes.
And I think that's what the advice to your younger self would be is to, change how you're going to think about this.
Right. Right. And be open to hear other ways of thinking about the same thing because sometimes the way we've been programmed or the way we've grown up believing is not actually how things are in the real world or in general. And so there's a chapter in the book about lowering expectations. And
Man,
that's the concept of not continuing to move the goalpost every time. Take the time to celebrate your wins. Take the time to celebrate what you've accomplished in your life. And I've even done some posts on my Facebook group encouraging people to do that. Because how often, like, when was the last time you celebrated being a great father?
I can't really think of it, to be honest with
And
you.
yeah, and a lot of people don't take the time for that. And I, I honestly had an instance recently that my my oldest had told me that he wanted to be a good father like me. And I didn't take that in. Like, I was like, well, you're going to be your own father. You got to do your thing. And, don't compare yourself to me. But I didn't accept that.
It's hard to.
He would, well, yeah. And you constantly move the goalpost. What does it mean to be a great father?
True. Yeah. I mean, I guess I never really thought about it like that. I mean, to be honest, I don't think either one of my kids are going to end up having their own kids or want their own kids, whatever you want to call it. I just envy your ability to just like do that, right? Because that's just not an easy thing to do.
No,
Like I had said, my wife has, I won't say taught me whatever, but like, she's guided me towards being able to communicate better with her, right? But it's still something, that is like, I don't know. I still sometimes just default to that default, like, bury it.
right. And it's easy too because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
It's what you
Yeah.
know. And from that place, if you're uncovering it or if you're releasing it, then it doesn't have the same charge. So that's the next book in the works. But I just wrote that chapter today, actually.
Oh man. Oh man.
But no, it's the idea that we can dive deeper and release the things, and if we release them in the moment, if we can get centered with ourselves, some people do that through meditation or breath work. A lot of times that can help because it gives you something physical to focus on
Right.
and
Yes.
dive getting back in touch with yourself. And then once you're in touch with yourself, then go into experiencing what it was you were feeling and get to the
Makes a lot
bottom
of
of it,
sense.
what it is, rather than continuing to bury it. And then each time you're adding another layer onto something that you're going to have to uncover at some point, or it's
Yeah.
going to explode. And that's the acceptable way for a man to do it. We
Right.
can
I mean,
explode and we're just pricks and he's just being a guy, and that's acceptable.
yeah. And something that they don't, at least when I was growing up, they didn't tell you is how much that actually impacted like how you feel on like a day to day
Yes.
basis, if you want to call it that. Like how does that like impact you, and you know what I mean? Like just things in nature. How do you feel about it? And I guess I just wish that it was like your thought process and some of the other guys was a little bit more I want to say not even necessarily mainstream, right? I'd say a little bit more mainstream in the male sphere, like among
Yes.
men,
Yes.
because I don't think it's anything like, yeah, women do have certain expectations of men, things of that nature. I mean, you can always dive into that, but um, I'm talking like the male sphere, and when it comes to that, is so divided.
Right.
And it's not just like, well, no, it is like staunchly divided. Like,
Yes.
and it is like not like a gray, no, it is a black and white. It either is or isn't. And to me, it should be a lot more of a gray area because not everybody's the same,
Yes. Yes.
and I feel like that kind of just gets lost these days.
It does. Thankfully, I'm going to repeat that this is shifting, this is changing, because we can't stay focused on all the things that haven't happened. The
Right.
only thing we can change is what's going to happen. And so the more energy we put towards positive change, the more podcasts like this that are putting out there that it's okay to feel your emotions, it's okay to be real, and it doesn't emasculate you. It doesn't make you less of a man because you cried. Honestly, it doesn't. It takes more courage for a man to cry than it does for a man to scream.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the scream is more of an instinct.
Yes. And if to feel the sadness in the moment takes more courage than it takes to scream to the mountain, because you're vulnerable at that point and you
Oh, yeah.
have to be in a somewhat safe or comfortable enough in your own body to know that it's okay to experience that. And if people are going to judge you, they were going to judge you either way.
Right. I mean, yeah.
So you are going to get judged because you flew off the handle, and you're going to get judged because you cried.
Yeah.
And
You're going
one
to
of
get
those,
judged for not expressing at all.
yes, and one of those is going to bury the emotions down, and keep repeating itself. And one of those is going to release the buried emotions and allow the charge to diffuse.
Yes.
So it's very easy to fall into stigmatized male roles. It takes a lot of courage to step up and say, "Hey, I'm not feeling right. This is depressing. I've been trying, I've been doing all I can, and everything's falling apart. And I just don't feel like I can do it anymore." And that's unfortunately where a lot of men get. And then they hear somebody say, "Well, tough it out," or "suck it up." And then, you are exposing your vulnerability in those moments of what you're feeling. And ultimately, that's what sends a lot of men to having the highest suicide rate, because it's not okay. It's not safe to feel those emotions. It's not okay to be emotional. And that's what I would love for anybody to get from this conversation, is that it's okay to be you.
Yeah. I mean,
It took me a long time to be comfortable with me. I would have never done this before.
oh yeah, 1,000%, man. It took me about 2 months to muster up the courage to listen to my own voice and see my own face on a video without going, and everybody's like, "Oh, you got a good voice." I'm like, "Man, I sound like a frog. What are you talking about?" Like, I'm like, I hate the way I sound. People are like, "What are you talking about? You sound fine, great." Like, I'm like, you don't got to flatter me. I'm like,
Right. Are
like,
you
no,
listening to the
no,
same person? I get that. I get that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm just like, and I'm man, it took a lot of courage to do this, right? Because
Yes.
it's complete. I'm used to being like in control of my environment, right?
Right.
And while you are in control, it's a lot different, right? Like I don't work with you every day, see you, several times a
Right.
week, and so that just environment is not there. So it's like, okay, you don't have that. Like I'm a big guy on like repetition and routine, right? So when
Right.
that's not there, I'm kind of like, what's going on? Like my day's messed up, and so yeah, this was definitely doing this was a challenge. A year ago, you wouldn't have got me on here. I'd have been like, yeah, yeah, don't never mind.
Yeah.
Click exit, shut down computer.
Right. Right. Yeah. But it needs to be out there. People need to
Oh yeah,
hear it. And it's ironic that there's millions of voices out there, but the person's going to hear what they need to hear from that one voice at that one time. And if you're not taking the time to share your voice because you're scared, or you're not feeling like you have something valuable to share, then you're neglecting the world. You are
yeah,
taking the chance for the world to learn something from all that you've gained. And
yeah. So like in terms of like the gain and the grow, so like inspiring it, right? So just like as we wrap up here, but I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. So to how would you inspire people? Like, okay, hey, first get your book because obviously a lot
yeah,
of us need it, but also to like to have that like platform to inspire themselves, right? Like the way you and a lot of other guys are thinking, right? It's giving them that platform, right? But it's one thing to see the platform. It's okay. How did you, proceed? And like, how did you get yourself on it, and then go up from there?
well, I think what it really boils down to is getting in touch with your own values. What actually matters to you? What kind of changes do you actually want to see in the world? And how do you think you could best communicate that to the world?
Yeah, yeah. That's
I think
that's important.
I think, going back to the sounding board, it's beneficial to share your information with people that are receptive to do it. But if you're sharing your information with people who could care less, then you're wasting energy. You
Yeah,
can plant a seed of information, you can gift them with that, but like in the sounding board, if they're coming to you with the same problem every time, and you're telling them the same thing every time, at some point I think there's a definition of insanity or crazy or
yeah.
something that falls in
Doing
there.
the same thing and expecting a different result. Yeah,
So making sure that the people that you're surrounding yourself with are actually going to be beneficial for you as well, and encourage you rather than kind of push you down or bottle you. So I think that's an important aspect of it too.
yeah.
So
And I think a good way to really help people with that from like my perspective per se, is I want to say like surround yourself with people like that. But if you're tend to be the more traditional masculine role type, you're generally not as open to that's generally not going to be part of your friend group very often, right?
Right, right.
But just trying to get everybody to remember like, hey, all roles have a place per se, right? So it's
Yes.
like, and I think some guys can benefit because I've known a lot of guys that are like, hey man, but then they find that one friend or whoever, man, that's just like they change as a person because they're like, oh man, I can be who I am.
Right, right. You get to inspire other people by your actions and what you
Yeah.
do. And there's a lot of people that are capable of saying all the right things, but taking the action is what really moves the goalpost forward. As much as
Yeah.
I say leave that thing where it is,
Hey.
you want to keep growing. You
Oh yeah.
just acknowledge your wins along the way and celebrate where you've come from. I think that's an important aspect of it too. Celebrate everything that you've accomplished.
Yeah. And that's just not, it's just not easy. Whoops. Sorry about that. Oops. I think you're trying the best way to put that. I get because it's like it's somebody coming from who's learned to do it, right? The one thing, like yeah, there's still things that I guess I probably would say I don't express to my wife, right? That I might express
Right,
to my guy friends,
right.
like just in general, right? But I think if it came down to it, my wife was like, hey, ABC, we should look at ABC or whatever, something like
Mhm.
that. I would be like, okay,
Right,
yeah, let's do it, right? Let's look at it versus to where or talk about it, I should say. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have done that.
right, right.
So that's kind of where I guess I go from it. It's really odd how to say it, like because like I have it. The expression part is I think where guys got to like learn how to express it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
There's
crying. Yeah, the crying part's okay, but it's also like learning
not the
how to
only thing.
express it before you get to that explosion part, like you were
Yes.
talking about. That's what I was
Yes.
trying to get to. Because I'm sitting there, I'm like,
Okay.
man,
Okay.
what am
Yeah,
I trying to get to?
that does make more sense. All right.
Yeah, like
So there's aspects of this that you can do as well with journaling, kind of getting
okay,
into the why exercises, diving deeper into why you're feeling it and putting it out on paper. Getting it
right,
out, you could do a video recording of yourself expressing whatever it is. If you're holding on to a lot of frustration, you could find an activity outside where you can go cut some logs, you could go running and exude that energy, find a healthy way to release the energy that is charged in that situation. And sometimes some people are more comfortable writing it out. Some people need to go out in the woods and scream or scream into a pillow, but accepting the emotion and releasing the emotion is not detrimental. Holding on to the emotion and burying the emotion is what really eats at us over time. So, yeah, for some men, they might not be comfortable crying, but knowing that that's an acceptable form of release, writing might be a better method for them. That's what I did a lot when I was initially starting the process was just getting it out, doing like a daily or every other day comment, what I was feeling that day and how my day went or something like that. And one of the other things it does is it helps you to decompress and clear your head because you're getting your thoughts out on paper, or you're getting your thoughts out in some kind of way that benefits you, whether it be talking to yourself on a video or screaming into a pillow or just finding some way to release the emotional charge and just doing it as much as possible. Like if you're dealing with an unruly employee or a customer, you're obviously holding down some frustration at times because they're being ignorant, to put it nicely. And
I
so
mean, no, that's a
they
perfect way to put it, man. That's a perfect way to put it.
so you're holding all that in and you're storing that energy. So you go into another interaction with somebody else and you're still frustrated about that person you were dealing with a little while ago and they say something just normal to you and you're like, "What?" because you have that emotional charge, and they didn't mean anything. There wasn't any kind of anything else going on there, and now you've created another emotionally charged instance because they're like, what the hell are you talking to me like that for? I didn't do nothing. And then it escalates.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
having
yeah,
those moments to
yeah. Definitely,
discharge.
when I was younger, when my dad was like that, I was like, all right, yeah, yeah, stay left field away from that one, buddy. Yeah, I could tell when my dad was definitely emotionally charged because I'd be like, oh yeah, man, I'm avoiding that one.
Yep.
Like the Black Plague, man, like gone
Right.
right out the side door. But yeah, Derek, this was I really enjoyed this, man. Like, I while we were here, I actually did order your book. So
Well, thank you.
yeah, 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 definitely gonna give that a check out. I mean, like I said, I'm always looking for new ways to just change who I am as a leader, how I process things, and so that's definitely the one thing that I've learned as I've gotten older that is extremely important is being
Right.
able to change how you process everything.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
that confidence you had in your early 20s enabled you to push past things.
Right.
So where now when you're older, you're like, yeah, I still have confidence, but I also know that push comes to shove. I'm not 20 anymore.
Right.
So you kind of have to learn how to, I guess, like reinvent yourself, reinvent your mind, things of that nature. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Communicate effectively.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I usually like if I'm gonna go like if I gotta go to a meeting, I'm like I just jot down a bunch of notes and I'm like da 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 da, and I'll say them into my phone or whatever. And then when I'm like the last 5 minutes before I get there, I'll just boom put it on the radio and okay, boom boom boom. All right, I learn better that way, right? Like just jotting it down, translating the audio, and then when I'm driving, it gives me that essentially that written reminder, if you want to call it that, and then also that audio reminder. And then that helps me communicate effectively. And then let's say I did have a bad morning that was emotionally charged, right? Well, now that's kind of like occupying my mind
Right.
and not the other part that was like making me want to be like, and go crazy.
Well, and I think what you just described would be an awesome way to also handle that situation. You could jot down your emotions in the moment, back into or send that into a little audio, release the energy of the moment, and then go on to the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, I work with a lot of people, man. And so some days there's just days where you're just like, man, already know based on what your wife sent you, what you're coming home to, if it's been one of those
Right.
kind of days. And then you had one of those days at work and you're just like, man, I don't have anywhere to go.
Right.
I don't got nowhere to hide. And you're just, and I think that's, I mean, I know a lot of women go through that too, but I think it's
Yeah.
like, we were saying with men, it's definitely minimized
Right. Well, I think
by
for
men too, not by women who
yes,
are like, be a
yes.
man, but
I
by men too.
I think it's a lot more men than women because a lot of women will encourage you. Now, not all women are capable of handling a man that's in an emotional roller coaster. So that's where having another man that's safe to have these type of conversations with is beneficial. But if they're able to in the time and it's not a recurring thing, I think that's a big like red flag. If all your heated episodes or all your heated conversations are all brought to your spouse. It doesn't matter if male or female. If every heated incident she has at work or she has in her life is only brought to you and she doesn't have any other friends to release it, then you're the sole source of her energy release. And if she
That
doesn't
can be
have
a
anywhere
bad thing.
else to go it, yeah. So
It could
then
definitely be a bad thing.
you're taking on your own energy, you're taking on the energy of somebody else, and then you wonder why there's not really a good connection there because one person is kind of in a state of, well, this and that. I can't really say anything because they're already pissed. And I can't really talk about what I got going on because they got this going on. So I'm the only one they can talk to. So I got to let them vent. And then you end up
Becomes a whole thing, man.
aggravated. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Hey, I know you said earlier you're writing another book. So,
Yep.
as
It's a
that gets
follow up.
closer to coming out, we got to get you back on here, man,
That would
doing
be
that.
amazing.
I think this is now like the third episode I've done that's on like mental health, like how to, things of that nature, right? And I just find that I love those episodes
Me
and
too.
it's fun. It's great to just learn something that I may not have thought of, right? And then the
Right.
public learns it as well.
Right. Right.
So it's like a trifecta.
Yes. Yes, and that's definitely what I want to do. I want everybody to have a chance to read it. I want everybody to be able to check it out. It is on Amazon, and I do have the Facebook page, Derek Henderson author page. If anybody wants to go on there and check that out or follow the page, I try to add something new almost every day. Um, and it's definitely a good way to interact with me if you have any questions as well.
Yeah, for sure. Feel free anytime to want to stop by here and plug something in, man. I'm always, I just love cranking out the stuff. But the one thing I will say, since you're down in Florida and I'm up here in Michigan, you can just take the hot weather and take it back.
Yeah,
Like
I was just up there, but it didn't come back with me. I was just up there last week. It didn't come
we were
back.
in
I
Michigan
mean,
last week.
yeah, I was actually.
Man, was it like
I
a
was-
sauna?
yeah, it was actually. I was like, huh. I was out shooting fireworks off for my wife, and I was sweating afterwards. I'm like, we went from Florida to Michigan, and it's humid up here. What the heck is this?
Oh man, I know. I live right by Lake Erie and a big river, and it just will be like you're just sitting here like, oh man, okay, it's only gonna be like 80 tomorrow, 79, so it's not gonna be too bad. Then you're like, man, it feels like 90. Peel my
Yeah.
skin off of myself, and people go, why do you like the cold? I'm like, because it's a whole lot easier to warm up than it is to cool down. I can
Yeah,
put a
to a
jacket
certain
on,
extent.
but unless I'm going to dip in the water or in the shade or in a house, but that's just me. I guess I just like the cold weather. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah. I'm the other side of that. Air conditioning is a great thing, and you can only put on so many clothes before you can't move.
touche, touche. I guess I just, like people here will be like, oh man, there's a snowstorm coming. I'm like, damn, really? I'm like, man, I
Yeah.
can pop 4-wheel drive onto my truck and let's go do something, like that's how I think, and everybody else is like, oh my God. And I'm like, oh, just take your time. Don't stress, just
Yeah.
know you need a little bit of extra time to get there. Stop and get yourself an extra coffee on the way. Just probably going to need a coffee break on your way to work that morning. You know, you're probably not making it from point A to point B, that fast. So yeah, I mean, I like the Florida weather when it's like -5 out here. Then I'm like, all right, yeah, I could use some of that,
Yeah,
but when it's
usually
like
we got the
summer,
nicer weather then.
yeah, when it's like this up here, I'm like, yeah, no. But the one thing I've heard is Florida has like bugs that are the size of Texas. So
Well, I don't know. That was what people were telling me about Michigan, and those bugs up
really,
there do get pretty big in the summer. But that's the only time y'all have them. We have them all year round.
you
They
are
don't
not
go
lying.
away.
Yeah, I think they call it mayfly season up here, and if you're by the water, it'll cover just everything, like every window, every like in my industry, somebody opens up a window to give it to a bag to a customer, and it's like swatting mayflies away as you're trying to get people food, and they're like, you're like, oh, I ain't got no way to really stop them. They're you're driving,
Right.
and it's like as you're driving down the road, and you're just like, this is not normal.
Yeah.
I'm sure you go through that a lot down there.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a love bug season, which has honestly not been as bad as it used to be. So I don't know
Oh
if
man,
they're kind of dying off or if something's changed, but they haven't been as bad. So I'm
that's
grateful for
never a
that.
terrible thing.
No, it's
Never a
not.
terrible thing. If I could get rid of mosquitoes, I'd be perfectly fine with it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Derek,
Thank you for
and
having me.
look forward to having you on again in the future.
I look forward to it as well. It'll be nice to have another conversation. I'm hoping the other book will be ready by the end of the year. I'm about three
Yeah,
quarters of the way through writing it right now. So
yeah. I mean, we don't have to wait that long. Yeah, I mean, just let's stay in touch, man.
will do. All
All
right, man.
right, thanks, Derek. You have a
All
good
right.
one.
You too.
Bye bye.
See ya.